Hello, welcome to another episode of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, with your boy, Jeff Charles, where we prefer truth over narrative and principles over politics. And I've got another fire. Oh, wait, no, I don't have a fire conversation for you today. See, I gotcha. It's just going to be me, and I'm just going to be talking about something that's been going on in the news lately. I'm sure you've heard of the terrorist attack that happened in Buffalo, New York. So I've got some thoughts on it, and I've been tweeting about it. But before I get into everything, you know what to do. You got to like this video. You got to share this video, and please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. That way you will be notified whenever I upload a new video, which my interviews typically go up every Wednesday and Friday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So definitely subscribe. And again, hit that notification bell, share, and like this video. That helps me out a lot. If you want to support my show monetarily, I've got the links in the show notes. I've got the CashApp and the Venmo app and all the apps. Also, got to remind you that LibertyNation.com is a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. Check out LibertyNation.com for all of your conservatarian news, original articles, analysis, videos, podcasts, Liberty Nation Radio, which I host, and their signature TV program, The Conservative 5, all on LibertyNation.com, where truth is making a comeback. So, like I said, I mean, this whole thing has been on my mind and on my heart, and it's been kind of difficult to engage in some of these conversations over the years because this stuff comes up, and you always see how people respond, and it's not always in the most healthy or productive of ways. And this is on the left and the right. And you know me, I go after both, and I'm going to be talking about both here. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the conservative side because that's where I am. And I really want us to be better about these things. So when I criticize, it's not, I'm not criticizing from the left because I'm not on the left. I'm criticizing because I want us to be better. I want us to see where we're making mistakes and then improve on that. I think there's a lot of thinking that has been ingrained in the conservative movement, from politicians, media, and, all kinds of social, societal, cultural factors. And it's especially problematic, to use their word. No, it's not their word. It's just a word. Problematic is not the left's word. We can use it too. It's okay. What's especially we have especially a problematic approach when it comes to issues involving race. I mean, we're bad at it. We're getting better. I do see that we're getting better, but we're still not very good on these issues. And so before, I go into my thoughts on it, just in case you haven't heard, there was a shooting in Buffalo, New York. I believe it took place on Saturday or Sunday last weekend. And it was a white supremacist, and this has been confirmed. He wrote a manifesto. He identified as a white supremacist. Politically, he identified as a leftist, and that's something that's a little bit more complicated when it comes to the more authoritarian belief systems. So that will be something that I cover in another video. I doubt that he voted Democrat. Maybe he didn't vote at all. I don't know. Well, he was only 18, so he hasn't been old enough to vote. So I don't know when he turned 18 or if he's voted at all, but obviously, he probably doesn't like either party in general, but he went into a supermarket called Tops Supermarket. I'm not going to name him. I'm going to avoid saying his name because he doesn't deserve that, and I'm sure that's what he wanted. And he live streamed him carrying out this shooting on Twitch. Now, about 2 minutes into the shooting, Twitch claims that they shut down his stream. So they must have discovered it, or it got reported and they shut it down. But he live streamed himself going into Buffalo, New York, and he had done his research, and he went to a predominantly Black area because he wanted to kill Black people. And again, this is all in his manifesto. He admits to this. On his AR-15, because he used an AR-15, again, on purpose, because he wanted to spark that gun debate. He also made sure he did it in New York and in an area where people are less likely to have guns to retaliate against them. And in New York, very difficult to get a gun. I mean, it's much easier for a criminal to get a gun, but it's, as far as concealed carry, it's not easy, and he knows this. So he went in with an AR-15, and by the way, it is legal to carry a long gun in New York State without a permit, which I didn't know. I checked that out. I'm actually surprised by that. But if you want to carry a pistol or a handgun and get a concealed carry permit, It's very, very difficult. That's actually a case that's being decided by the Supreme Court right now. But anyway, he went in and he opened fire, shot 13 people, killed 10. I think one or two of the people he killed was white. The rest were black. As a matter of fact, there's even a witness that says that he pointed his gun at a white person, realized that it was a white person, and said sorry, and then moved on to the next. So it's very clear that this piece of crap was there to kill specifically black people. There was a security guard there who was a hero. He was very, very brave. He shot back at him, and I think he hit him once, but he was wearing body armor. So one shot, I guess wasn't enough to at least take him out of commission, and he ended up killing the security guard. This does bring up a Second Amendment conversation. This does bring up, whether people should be armed or not. But again, that's another conversation. I'm going to try not to get into tangents here because there is just so much in this story to talk about. Now, he was already known to law enforcement. He had made threats to shoot up his high school. This would have been last year. He was 17. According to the New York Times, quote, last spring, as the end of the academic year approached at Susquehanna Valley High School outside Binghamton, New York, students were asked for a school project about their plans after graduation. And this guy, who was a senior at the time, said that he wanted to commit a murder-suicide, according to law enforcement. So I believe that he was sent to get mental treatment. Obviously, it didn't work, and he got out. And then later he carried out this attack, and it sounds like he'd been planning it since January. Huge tragedy. He was captured alive. He did put his gun to the neck, so I think he was planning to kill himself, but the officers were able to talk him out of it. They talked him down, and they booked him. He pled not guilty, which is likely what his attorney advised him to do, because a lot of times they will advise their client to plead not guilty, even if they're planning to plead guilty later on, because it gives them more time to look at the case, figure things out, whatever. I mean, I doubt that he's going to continue with that not guilty plea, but that's what he did at first. But when the news came out, and there's still debate going on Twitter, and I'm sure other social media platforms and the airwaves, and everybody has the wrong take on this, except for maybe normal everyday people, which is always the case, right? It's always the members of the chattering class, like myself, who always have the worst takes. And I'm not just talking about people on the right. People on the left are being evil about this, and I'll get to that in a second. But here's where I'm having an issue. And again, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know where I'm going with this. Conservatives are responding just in the way I predicted. I mean, they are finding ways to deflect from the attack. And mind you, I'm talking mostly about our pundits, not our politicians so much, but more of our media figures, our influencers online. And then, of course, some everyday people online as well. But I'm focusing mainly on the influencers and the pundits. And they're focusing on the black person who carried out a terrorist attack in Waukesha, Wisconsin, if you remember, last December or November. During a Christmas Day parade, he drove his car, and it turned out that he had a lot of racist propaganda, and he was very much racist against white people. Now, he never actually said that's why he carried out the attack. So it's not as obvious in his case as it is in what happened in Buffalo, because in Buffalo, the guy wrote the manifesto and said, basically, he's a racist, and he doesn't like black people. He thinks that America should belong to white people. This guy didn't really had that explicitly because he didn't release it as a manifesto. He was just going online and posting anti-white stuff. Now, that being said, I do think that his attack was at least in part or mostly racially motivated. So I'm going to be fair about that. I doubt that he just did this for the heck of it, right? He went to a place where it was predominantly white, and he ran over a bunch of people. I mean, it's not hard to connect the dots. Even so, we know what happened with the media. The media did report on it. So the ones who tell you that they didn't report on it at all, or that they reported on it very little, are lying to you. They did at first, but you know what happens. A few days go by, they forget about it because they can't really exploit it. And it's funny because before we knew that the shooter was black, they were already pushing a white supremacy narrative. They always do that. But it turned out he was black, and so the media kind of downplayed it after that. And this is worthy of criticism. So I don't want anybody to listen to this video and think that we should not be criticizing the media for this blatant hypocrisy. We should be. We were then, and we did it after, and we should do it. The problem is that when there is a white supremacist who carries out a terrorist attack against your fellow Black Americans, now's not the time to use Waukesha to distract from that. And yes, they are using it to deflect and to distract. Yes, you can do both. You can criticize that and also express sympathy for the victims. You can do that, but that's not what's happening. Most of these people aren't even paying attention to the victims, not very much. And all they're talking about is, oh, well, look at how the media is covering this. I mean, they care so much. President Biden's going to go to Buffalo, New York tomorrow, and whatever. I'll get to that in a second, because there was somebody who actually complained about that. Again, the criticism isn't wrong, but the way that that incident is being used is wrong. Because to me, and if you think I'm being too cynical, definitely let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter at jeffontheright. You can leave me a comment down below. Whatever you want to do. If you think I'm being too cynical, I understand, but I'm sorry. I've seen this too many times, and I give these people too much credit. They know what they're doing. They're using the attack in Waukesha to distract and to deflect from what happened in Buffalo, New York. Plain and simple. It's what they do whenever there's a police shooting of a Black man and it's unjustified. They'll bring up Black on Black crime. They'll pull up the record of the person who was killed, all in an effort to distract from what the state did. So it's the same principle. And again, I'm not going to say that every single pundit who was talking about this, that's their intention. I'm not going to say that. A lot of them, I think it is. Can't prove it. That's just my opinion. Because again, I give them too much credit. These are not stupid people for the most part. They're smart. They know what they're doing. But even the ones who aren't doing it on purpose, it still speaks to the way we approach these things, the way we've been conditioned to approach these things. And to me, there's a lot that's wrong with this. First, we're ignoring the victims of the crime. We're also ignoring the fact that, yes, there is racism in America, guys, and it's not just anti-white. There are white people who hate Black people and vice versa. And in these moments, we need to have the courage, and I do say courage, because on our side, it takes courage, because you'll get criticized for doing this on the right. If you're on the left, you can go overboard and say, yeah, everybody's racist, yeah, and then you'll get applauded. But on the right, it's harder to talk about these things because in general, people don't want to talk about it. But to me, we do need to be able to step up and say, this was wrong. This was an act of white supremacist terrorism that we reject, because 99% of people in the Republican Party and the conservative movement do not approve of this attack, including the ones who are trying to distract from it. I'm not saying that any of these people approve of what happened, because they don't. If you were to ask them, they would answer honestly, and they would say, no, I condemn that. But my thing is, when we're focusing more on the media's hypocrisy than on the issue at hand, then it has a lot of problems. It creates a lot of problems for the conservative movement. It creates a lot of problems for national discourse, because we lose the opportunity to be the adults in the room, like I always say, because we know the left isn't going to do that. And I promise I'm going to get to them in a second, because what they're doing is worse. It is worse. But my thing is, we shouldn't be so afraid to just say, yeah, you know what? That was a white supremacist, and he killed a bunch of Black people, just like Dylan Roof did. And it was wrong. I condemn that wholeheartedly. I hope they throw him under the jail. I hope that the authorities find these operations and break them up. I hope they figure out ways to keep these people from being radicalized. There is absolutely nothing wrong with what I just said. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. You're not giving in to the left if you say that, because racism should not be a left or right thing. Like, people, whether you're on the right or the left, you should be able to condemn racism no matter who it's being thrown at. Yes, I know the left doesn't do that, but you know what? I'm not on the left. I'm not speaking to the left right now. I'm speaking to conservatives. That's my audience. If we're going to say we're better, we need to actually be better. And in a lot of ways, we're not. And again, the average conservative can understand that. And they say, yeah, that's probably not the best way to respond. But when your influencers are doing this, they make you look a certain way. Right now, I'm talking to Black and white conservatives. They make you look, you're Black. A lot of your Black conservatives, and I'm going to show you in a second, are making you look like you don't care about this stuff. White conservatives, I'm talking to you right now. These influencers are the ones who make you look like racists. Now, I'm not saying it's fair. It's not fair. They shouldn't represent you in that way. And people shouldn't judge you by what these people do. But this is 2022. We're in America and we're human. We do it to the other side too. They do. And when this happens, people on the outside, whether they're moderate independent or maybe like a moderate Democrat, they look at that and they say, well, is this what these people believe? You know, it doesn't work for us. I'll just say it doesn't work in our favor if we're trying to do what we say we're trying to do when it comes to appealing to more Americans. So I'm going to show you in a second, just so you don't think I'm making this up. So we've got a tweet, not that one. Oh, wait a minute. So first, actually, no, I'm not going to do the left first. I'm going to do the right first. So we've got Matt Walsh, who, I mean, you can always count on him to post this stuff. When a black supremacist committed a massacre at a Christmas parade in Waukesha, the president of the United States refused to visit the victims nearly a month after the attack. He sent his wife for a photo op. Biden will be in Buffalo personally on Tuesday. Now, is this a valid criticism? Yes, it is. It is a valid criticism. Is he doing this to criticize the president, or is this more to distract from what just happened? Because if he had posted this last week, nobody would say anything. This would be a valid criticism. But it's very clear that this is distracting from or deflecting from what happened in Buffalo, New York. Now, maybe somewhere on his stream, maybe he did express sympathy for the victims. I hope he did. But still, this stuff isn't helping us. I'm just saying, if you're watching this does not help us. It may feel good because you're calling out hypocrisy, but it's not helping us. And there is a better way to fight. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, too. We also had, I'm going to spoil it. So hold on. You know, and a lot of other people were echoing these sentiments. I mean, you had the Hodge twins, Candace Owens, some of the others, and they were basically making the same points about how the media is hypocritical in the way that it covers other types of terrorist attacks. Now, to be fair, the left does the same thing, right? And we see this. Matthew Gertz, yesterday, a white supremacist spewing the Great Replacement conspiracy theory mainstreamed by Fox News' biggest star, Tucker Carlson, killed 10 people in Buffalo. So they're trying to blame this on Tucker Carlson. I'm sure you saw that, which is funny because this kid was 18 years old. 18-year-olds in general don't watch Fox News. They have the people who watch Fox News tend to be 60 and up. So you can't really blame Fox News and Tucker Carlson for this. On top of that, he even said in his manifesto he doesn't like Fox News. Of course he doesn't. None of these people like Fox News. Tucker Carlson doesn't have influence with these people. But the thing is, they count on people's ignorance. The average person doesn't know that. We do. But they don't, and they just eat this stuff up, and they believe it. And that's why they say it. You got Rob Reiner, who's always reliable for a dumb take. The racist massacre in Buffalo rests at the feet of Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, and the GOP. There are not fine people on both sides. Again, Donald Trump didn't say it didn't cause this. I don't know how this guy felt about Trump, but I'll tell you, a lot of these white supremacist types, they do not like Trump. They don't like him. You saw what he did with Israel. They don't like Jews. Donald Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. They hate Jews. His daughter has converted to Judaism. His son-in-law is a Jew. So these people don't like Trump or Republicans or Fox News. And yet this is what the left is doing. Do I have another one? No, that's the same guy. Liz Cheney, again, who spends her career nowadays begging and pleading from approval from the progressive left. She posted the House GOP leadership has enabled white nationalism, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism. History has taught us that what begins with words ends in far worse. GOP leaders must renounce and reject these views and those who hold them. Mind you, she never says what views they're talking about. Again, this is pandering. She's pandering to liberals. She's pandering to progressives. This is what Liz Cheney's platform is all about right now. And I really hope she gets voted out because she's ridiculous. But again, what are these people doing here? I mean, we're concerned about media hypocrisy. What are they doing right now? I'll tell you what they're doing. They are standing on the dead black and white bodies of the people killed by this piece of crap to score cheap political points against the right. So that's what I mean when I say what they're doing is worse than what people on the right are doing, even though I think that's abhorrent too. They are exploiting these victims that they claim to care about. They claim to care so much about black people. They claim that they love black people. that they champion our causes, that they care about us so much. But this right here shows that they don't give a crap. We are nothing more to these people than political weapons. I wrote about that in oh my gosh. I got a brain fart. I wrote about that recently, not in Newsmax, Newsweek. Man, I'm getting old. I wrote about this recently in Newsweek, that Democrats and far left progressives, they see Black people, not as constituents, but as weapons to be exploited. That's all we are to them. And they're so good at making it look like they care. Like what Malcolm X said is right. I repeat it all the time. He talked about white conservative racists and white liberal racists. And the white liberal racists were more dangerous because they pretend to be your friends. Like somebody who's racist, like this guy who conducted the shooting, you know where he stands. He's open with it. They don't hide it very well, even when they try. The ones that do exist. And the ones that do exist on the left, they hide it much better because they will shake your hand. They will give you a hug while they're jabbing that dagger into your back and while they're using us to get what they want. So they don't care about the fact that this man murdered 8 Black people. They don't care about them. They're using those dead Black bodies as political pawns to score cheap political points because they are disgusting people who should not be taken seriously, which is why I get so angry at the right. Because like this is actually evil, what they're doing. And we are blowing our chance to fight back against it. We can't be taken seriously when we talk about these issues because the loudest among us, they also don't care about these terrorist attacks. They care about the narrative. They care about deflecting from what happened. Again, I'm talking about the loudest among us. I'm not talking about all of us, not even most of us, not even a significant chunk. I'm just talking about certain people in the chattering class. And yes, there were people who went on Fox News and expressed sympathy for the victims. So I'm not going to pretend like nobody did it. I'm just saying that there are some loud people on there that are being very counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. And to me, what we should be trying to accomplish is opposing this right here, what we're dealing with right here, what Liz Cheney is saying. Rolling Stone published an article saying the same thing. I'm going to be writing a lot about this. It's horrible because you know they don't care. If they actually cared, they would be willing to have conversations that lead to solutions. Also, on top of that, what they're trying to do while we're focused on media hypocrisy, they're trying to use these dead Black bodies to tamp down on your free speech. So again, there's a lot more at work here, and we're missing it when we chase after these bouncing balls and these flashing lights. I swear we're like kittens with a laser pointer. I mean, it's just, we got to pay attention here. But there was somebody who asked me a very good question. At what point do you stop playing defense? They're going to use this to every advantage they can. How do you effectively counter? And that was in response to a tweet that I posted criticizing, again, what we're talking about here. And it's a very good question. And I answered him in a thread, but I'm going to answer right here. I've already given you the playbook, especially in a situation like this. Look at what the left is doing right now. I know what they did when Waukesha went down. I know what they did. I called it out. We all called it out. What are they doing right now? Because I would argue that what they're doing right now is even worse, more insidious, more evil, more detrimental, more dangerous to American society. Again, they are standing on dead Black bodies. And I'm not trying to discount the white people who were killed, because I just mentioned them before. The reason why I'm delineating between Black and white right now is because if this guy killed all white people, they wouldn't be, this wouldn't be an issue. They wouldn't be able to exploit it. There would be nothing about this shooting that would be useful to them beyond the usual, let's take away everybody's guns, right? And they're pushing gun control, of course. But other than that, it wouldn't be that useful. And you've seen in other mass shootings where it's maybe like a mix of people who get shot, or maybe mostly white people. They don't use the white supremacist narrative. They go with the gun control. In this, they're going for gun control. They're going for everybody except us are racist. And they're going for your speech online. Elon Musk is trying to buy Twitter right now. So this is not a coincidence. Now, when I say it's not a coincidence, I'm not saying that this shooting happened because of that. I'm not putting on a tinfoil hat. I'm not putting my kufi on right now. I'm saying the way they're responding to it is not a coincidence. So how do we fight back? The way we fight back is by standing up for the victims. like I said, there were some pundits who expressed concern about the victims, but I would rather see people attack the media and Democrats for exploiting the victims. That would make more sense, because we're at a point right now in 2022 where a lot of people have figured out that Democrats don't care about Black people. A lot of Black people are figuring that out, because Biden's going to go down there tomorrow, and I guarantee you what we're going to see on social media after he visits and all that, he'll say, okay, so where's the action? What are you going to do to stop this stuff? And he's not going to have an answer. Really, because the president, I don't think, can do much about this. Maybe he can. Maybe there's stuff that the DOJ could do. But in general, there's not much that Democrats can do. And honestly, if they could, they wouldn't. I mean, they're not going to do much to stop this. They're just going to say, oh, let's take everybody's guns. And that's not the answer. Really, the answer is to stop, making it harder for Black people to have guns. But I'm digressing again. So I'm going to talk about that later too. But here's the thing. We call out the evil that they're doing. They're standing on the bodies and on the graves. They're not even in the grave yet. And they're already exploiting them. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about them. We're mad because they didn't talk about Waukesha like this. No. Point out what they're doing right now, because it is evil. On top of that, both the governor of New York and the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, have already suggested we need to get the government involved in big tech, because guess what? That's where a lot of these attacks are planned. You've got forums like 8chan and others where these people congregate and they talk, because they're not welcome on Twitter, and I'm not against that, but they find ways to meet and to congregate and to talk to each other, which again is another reason why Tucker Carlson is a red herring. Tucker Carlson has nothing to do with this, especially if you're talking about the Great Replacement theory. It doesn't have much to do with what Carlson says, although I can understand how some might think that if they don't know much about it. But that's another subject. The thing is that they want to use this as an opportunity to tamp down on speech. What did the Biden administration just do? They have a Ministry of Truth now, Disinformation Governance Board. What's to keep them from forming an office that's designed to look for hate speech? And when we start talking about hate speech, we know where that slippery slope leads, right? Because to them, disinformation is whatever information that goes against the leftist narrative, whether it's true or not. Hate speech is whatever they don't like, whatever arguments they don't like. So they'll start out with something that sounds justifiable because it applies to people that we all hate. We all hate neo-Nazis. We all hate KKK. So they start out with those targets because those are easy. Because if you kick them off, or if you manage to tamp down on them, you're not going to get much of a resistance from that. But it's not going to stop there. So if they're talking about getting the government involved in looking at speech, and if they specifically start using the term hate speech, eventually they're going to come after us. People who maybe think, well, maybe we should tamp down on the border and prevent illegal immigrants from getting here. Maybe we should look at mandatory e-verify so that they don't come here. Maybe even with our legal immigration system, we should maybe lower some of that or find other ways to deal with that issue. They could say that that's hate speech, because I guarantee you, I'm telling you guys, there are people out there who think that what I just said is hate speech. I've seen it. Now, it's still fringe, but you know how that works. I mean, you've got the fringe telling Joe Biden what to do right now. And that's why he's trying to do a lot of stuff that he's been trying to do with Build Back Better. So these people don't have all the power they want in the government, but they're getting there, and they're trying to get more influence. Even when it comes to other issues like police brutality. I mean, there's certain things you can say about that might be constituted as hate speech according to these people. So all that to say is, when these things come up, we need to fight, but we need to fight smart. See, he asked, at what point do we stop playing defense? I just wrote an article about that with the whole Don't Say Gay bill, the parental rights in education. I wrote an article telling conservatives to stop staying on the defensive. So I agree with that sentiment. But sometimes people think that fighting and just fighting, that's enough. No, you got to fight smart. If you're fighting in a way that hurts you more than your enemy, then you might want to just stay on defense if that's what you're going to do, because you'll cause yourself less harm. That's all I'm saying. When it comes to these issues, we can't be afraid to have the conversation about race, but let's have it like adults, since the left won't. When you see the left exploiting an attack like this, or exploiting black bodies, dead black bodies, says, by the way, they don't just do it in this case. I mean, the whole police brutality thing, they do that with that issue as well, and with a host of other issues. Whenever we see them doing that, We need to call them out when they're doing it. If you want to talk about the media's hypocrisy and how they cover a black terrorist versus a white terrorist, yes, we should be talking about it. But there's a time for every type of attack, right? Like even if you're in the military, your strategy, you're not going to use the exact same strategy at different times. You know, when Hitler wanted to invade Russia during World War II, that was the wrong time because it was a little bit too cold for them to be doing what they were trying to do. They may have succeeded if we're in the summer. I don't know. But I'm just using that as an illustration. There is a time to every attack. Again, the attacks on the media because of how they treat different types of terrorists are 100% valid. But that doesn't mean that we should just be haphazard in the way that we apply our strategy. And yes, this is a strategy. The left has this down pat. It's only been over the past year that they've been messing up when it comes to messaging. They're usually better than this. But we have to be more strategic as well. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And again, I'm saying these things because I want us to be better as a movement and even as a country. I want to have better conversations. I don't want people exploiting victims of terrorist attacks for political gain. I would rather for people on the left to be able to come together with people on the right and figure out ways to solve this problem. But you've got these fringes on both sides who want us at each other's throats. And it's going to be people like you and I who need to push back against that. So that was all that I had for today. And I appreciate you guys watching this. I'm sure there'll be some disagreement. If you disagree with something I said, let me know. Definitely hit me up on Twitter or in the comments below. I appreciate all comments. And we need to have more of these conversations. The thing about these conversations is that we need to have them because we have a tendency to just have a knee-jerk reaction to everything that happens. And there aren't enough people out there on both sides saying, well, hold on a second. Let's take a look at this. Is the way we're handling this the right way? We need more of that. So that's why I made this video. That's really a lot of what my platform is based on. Like, I'm the guy who wants to have those conversations because I want to be effective, not just feel good. So thanks again for another episode of A Fresh Perspective. Yeah, stay tuned and come back every Wednesday and Friday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern to see my interviews. Also, do not forget to head on over to libertynation.com, a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective, where you can get all of the latest cutting-edge conservative libertarian news with none of the spin and all the nuance. You're going to get a deeper dive into what's going on. You're going to get thoughtful conversations, thoughtful analysis like what we just had here. That's what you'll get every time you go to libertynation.com. So definitely check it out. And until next time, I don't know, have a great day.